Hi everybody and welcome back. It is week 6 of the wine challenge. Super excited for this one. It's going to be our first rosé of the challenge. I've never particularly been that fascinated by rosés. I've always kind of in my head had this idea that somehow they're a bit sweeter or not as interesting, and it's not really something that I would pick for myself when out having a drink. However, since working more with wine and since learning a bit more about wine and starting this whole wine journey, I have learned so much more about rosé. There's so much more to learn about rosé, and I've found some rosés that I actually really like. It's so much more versatile than I ever gave it credit for. So this week we're going to be delving a little bit into the Casa Defra rosé. So this is a Pinot Grigio rosé. It's from the Veneto region of Italy. So it's made with Pinot Grigio grapes. And this confused me a little bit because obviously I always thought Pinot Grigio was like a green grape, or it made, white wine. And I wasn't too sure how it could then make a rosé. So I've done a little bit more reading, a little bit more research into Pinot Grigio and grape varieties and how rosé is made and everything like that. So rosé actually happens when they allow the skin of a red grape contact with the juice for a set amount of time, a shorter length of time, and that embodies the colour into the wine. So as we know with red wines, they leave the skins and the seeds and everything like that on, and that creates tannins, but it also gives it the colour. Rosés, however, are just in there for a couple of hours before they remove all of that, and it basically just stains the wine and it gives it this really beautiful colour. Now a lot of people have in their heads, and I was one of them for a long time, that white wine was made with green grapes and red wine was made with red grapes, which isn't the case. You can make white wine with red grapes, and Pinot Grigio is one of those. So I actually had a little look and found, here we've got pictures of the Pinot Grigio grape. So you can see there you've got this beautiful kind of like pinkish purplish kind of skin to it, and that's what stains the actual wine itself. But then that kind of got me thinking a little bit, because the wine that we tried last week, which was the orange wine, the Romanian orange wine, was made with Chardonnay grape, and that was left with all the skins and the seeds and everything intact and touching the wine, which is what gave it that lovely orange hue. So why were the colours different? And that's because Chardonnay is a green grape, so that's what gave it the orange colour rather than the rosé or the red colour that you see going on with red grapes. Call me a grape nerd, but I found that really interesting. So under recommendation, I've had this chilling for about half an hour in the fridge, and I'm going to jump straight in and do the tasting. Pour myself a nice measure. So we're going to do the 5 S's as usual. So S number 1 is C, and that's a really beautiful pale kind of pink. So it's sort of like a salmon pink colour, and it's a lot lighter in the glass than it is in the bottle, because obviously you're getting a smaller quantity, and when you tip it you can see it goes incredibly pale towards the edges. So yeah, really beautiful colour. So S number 2 is sniff. I literally couldn't smell anything then. Okay, I don't know if my nose is broken or what, but I'm really not getting any kind of smell from this at all, pretty much. Like a vague, very subtle wine smell, but that's about it. Not getting anything from that, so it's not an intense smell at all. Let's give it a swirl, see if that tries to open it up a little bit for us. And sniff again. I mean, that's opened it up a little bit, but I wouldn't say much. So I'm still not getting too much from the smell. I'm going to try that little trick that I tried last week, where I swirl it and I put my hand over the top to try and trap some more of the aromas in. Try not to get it on your hand. A little bit of citrus, a little bit of kind of red fruits, maybe, really light red fruits. So stuff like, strawberries and raspberries and light red berries, but that's very faint. And to be honest, I'm not really getting much from the smell. It's not a very smelly wine, very sort of low intensity when it comes to the aroma. So I suppose there's nothing left for me to do but the last S, so let's just give it a sip and try. So it's got a bit of acidity to it, and again, first sip, cover your taste buds, then we'll go back in for another one and you should be able to get a bit more through. Yeah, I mean, considering that this is sort of a dry wine, it does have a kind of almost inherent sweetness to it, like there's sweeter fruits coming through in it. It's not really sugary, but you do get a little bit kind of like sweet fruit. So again, with that, almost like strawberry. I can't really taste the citrus that I thought I could smell, but then I couldn't really smell much. So it's very clean. very light bodied, so it's not really full or really weighty. It's very light. I don't want to say watery because it's not watery, but it's not intense flavours. And I do get this kind of, yeah, sort of light kind of red berry, strawberry kind of coming through. It's a very simple, very refreshing wine. There's not too much else that I think I can say about it, to be honest. That's kind of what's quite nice about it though as well. It's not complex. You don't have to sit there and think, oh, I'm trying to suss out what this flavour, what that flavour is. It's not heavy drinking. It is the kind of thing you could drink a lot of, not that I condone, but it is very fresh and fruity and very agreeable. It's the kind of wine that I can imagine drinking with my friends who maybe aren't as into their wine as I am. So I quite like things which have, you know, crazy flavours. I like trying something new, something where I can really sit there and it has a bit more complexity to it. But I have a lot of friends who just enjoy drinking wine that's a lot lighter and has just like got, you know, fruity flavours to it and is nothing too intense, which there's nothing wrong with. And this is definitely the kind of wine which I, you know, could treat them to, or something that I could serve to them if they ever came around to visit. So that's pretty much all I can get from it. So I'm going to have a little look, see what the computer says. So here it says, a pale salmon pink colour with a delicate yet lively nose of fresh raspberries and wild strawberry. Bang on there, really. I got the strawberry, didn't I? Crisp, light and fragrant on the palate with a succulent finish. Or generally for Pinot Grigio rosé, a dry, fresh and fruity rosé with delicate aromas of red berries, good intensity of ripe berry and with a fresh lingering finish. See, I think this has a slightly shorter finish on it. I don't think that it kind of lingers in my mouth too much. I think it's a lot more refreshing and it kind of cuts off relatively quickly, which is good because it's almost like cleansing, a little bit palate cleansing. Yeah, I quite like it. I think it's very drinkable. It's the kind of thing that I could sit and just kind of pour myself another glass of again and again. Not that I should. And for somebody who, generally speaking, doesn't necessarily go out of their way to get rosés, I think this is something that I would get again. So there's some really interesting food options for this. Everything kind of points to stuff that's really light. It's a light wine, you want light food. Stuff like salads, but who's going to make themselves salad? When they could be making themselves some mozzarella and pasta and olive oil and salt. Light pasta, shellfish, or you can simply have it on its own as like an aperitif, so just chilled and on its own. When looking at cheeses, things like this crumbly Lancashire, which is a younger cheese, a little bit lighter, slightly acidic in its flavour, will work really, really well with it. So I'm going to start myself with a little bit of this crumbly Lancashire. That's held its shape pretty well so far. Usually I manage to just get it everywhere. And here we go. Cheers. I spoke too soon. It's crumbled everywhere already. However, it's a really, really nice combination. It's a really light cheese. It's not overly powerful. Yeah. Next up, we have the pasta, mozzarella, olive oil, salt. Super, super easy, very light, kind of summery pasta dish. So cheers again. That's really nice. You've got the sort of little bit of kind of light fruitiness, and then it pulls away a little bit with the salt and the olive oil. So that kind of takes away a little bit of the acidity. But you know, the wine is very simple and it's very easy to just kind of drink on its own. It doesn't necessarily need a food pairing for it. It really would make a good aperitif as well. So yeah, I am very happy with this combination. It's a very nice combination of wine and food, and with it being so simple, you don't have to have anything fancy, you know, to eat with it. You know, for someone like me who considers himself to be less of a rosé person, I actually think this is quite nice. I think this is just simple and it's got nice fruitiness to it. It's still dry, so it's not got any kind of sickly sweetness or sugariness. But let me know what you think, you know, whether you like it or if it's a bit too simple or a bit too light for you. If you like wines that are a bit more complex. Comment in the comment sections on our social media pages. We do like to hear your feedback and see whether you're enjoying the challenge, how you're getting on with the wines, what kind of wines you're enjoying. And join me next week. So next week we're going to be delving into a French Cabernet Franc. So that's quite a medium-bodied red. So we're changing it up a little bit and going a bit deeper than we've gone in the past couple of weeks. And it should be a really nice change. So until then, as they say in Italy, saluti.